This story speaks to anyone who's ever felt judged by their appearance. Before we begin, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Stories bring us together. And if you see yourself in what you hear, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. A wealthy businessman watched silently as his son, visibly trembling, extended a hand toward a black waitress in the middle of a quiet, upscale bistro in downtown Brookhaven. The room fell into a stunned hush. Utensils paused mid-air, conversations died instantly, and all eyes shifted toward the small gap between the tables. 9-year-old Julian Bradford, his legs wrapped in orthopedic supports, stood uncertainly in front of Mia Carter, the only black woman on staff that evening. A soft piano tune had just started playing, and Julian's gesture came without hesitation. Have you ever felt invisible until someone finally saw you? Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from, because your experience matters more than you think. Sir, please control your child, the manager, Mr. Lennox, snapped. This is a fine dining establishment, not a playground. Our staff aren't here to amuse guests. Henry Bradford, CEO of Bradford Holdings and one of the country's most powerful financiers, felt a knot tighten in his chest. It was the first time he had brought Julian out since the car accident that had left his son partially paralyzed. He was beginning to regret the decision. "Julian, take your seat," he said in a hushed, firm tone. Mia stayed still, her eyes moving from the manager to the billionaire, then to the young boy whose hand still hung awkwardly in the air. "She will be properly reprimanded," the manager muttered. But Henry said nothing. Every eye in the room remained fixed on him, waiting for his verdict. A single nod from him could have ended her career. The waitstaff froze mid-motion. The guests whispered, intrigued by the spectacle. But the only thing echoing in Henry's ears was Julian's laugh. Mia gently guided the boy back to their table after a few uncertain steps. "Thank you for the dance," she said softly, speaking with the formality of someone addressing a peer. "It meant a lot." She turned to leave. "Wait," Henry called. Out, his voice was quieter now, carrying something unfamiliar, vulnerability. "What's your full name?" "Mia Carter, sir." He repeated the name slowly, as if committing it to memory. Then he reached into his blazer and pulled out a business card. "My office. Tomorrow morning, 10 sharp." The room held its breath. Mia accepted the card without expression, though her fingers trembled slightly. "Dad," Julian called as she walked away, "why did you do that?" The words lingered like a challenge. For the first time, Henry saw not just his disabled son, but a whole person he had kept in the shadows since the accident. Dinner continued under a heavy silence. No one noticed Mia's final glance before leaving. It wasn't fear, it was resolve, steady and unwavering, while something far more conflicted was now stirring in Henry Bradford's mind. If this story is already making you feel something, don't forget to subscribe, because even the smallest act of respect can change everything. Clients with power make a few calls, and people like you disappear, Winters said coldly. "People like me?" Mia replied, raising an eyebrow. "You know what I mean." Winters adjusted her glasses. "People who forget where they stand." Mia smiled, calm, not amused. "And where exactly would that be?" Before Winters could answer, her phone buzzed. "He'll see you now." Henry Bradford's office covered nearly half the top floor. Beyond the towering windows, the skyline of Brookhaven looked like a toy city. He stood with his back turned, arms crossed as if surveying his own domain. "Mr. Bradford," Mia said respectfully. He turned slowly, expression unreadable. "Miss Carter, thank you for coming." He gestured to the chair in front of his desk. "Please, have a seat." What followed was intentional silence, the kind used by people who were used to control. Mia knew the tactic. It was meant to unnerve, to make others speak too soon. "Do you have a background?" Henry finally asked. "Sorry." "Education?" "College." Mia didn't flinch. "Bachelor's in Child Development. Pacific State University. Almost completed my master's in special education." A flicker of surprise crossed his face. "And now you're working tables." "I work 3 jobs," she replied steadily. "This restaurant, a weekend shift at a local bookstore, and tutoring when I can." Henry picked up a folder from his desk. "I looked into you, wanted to know who this woman was, the one who danced with my son." He flipped it open. Photos of a modest community center appeared. "Bright Steps. You co-founded it 6 years ago." Mia sat straighter. "With my sister Lena. It's a dance program for children with physical challenges." Henry turned a few more pages. "It's about to shut down. No funding left." Mia didn't even blink. "I figured you'd know that already." "I didn't come here for money, Mr. Bradford." "Then why did you come?" "Because you asked me to." Henry chuckled under his breath. It wasn't laughter. "Fair enough." He stood again, clearly uneasy. "I want to hire you." Mia looked confused. "As a waitress in your home?" He shook his head slowly. "As a therapeutic companion. For Julian." Even saying his son's name seemed difficult for him. His gaze drifted to a photo on the desk, a smiling woman cradling a newborn. "I've hired top specialists, physical therapy, neurology, psychology. But what you did yesterday—" He paused, the words catching in his throat. "It was just a dance, Mr. Bradford. It was the first time I've seen him smile in 2 years. It was a hard thing to admit. I'm not looking for a dancer for my son. I need someone who can do what you did. Follow his rhythm, not control." Mia watched Henry Bradford closely. Behind the tailored suit and polished words, she saw what many couldn't, a man quietly drowning in helplessness. "I can pay you 5 times what you earn now," he offered. Mia stood up. "No." Henry looked stunned, like no one had said that to him in years. "I don't work for people who see my skin or my status before they see my skills," she said calmly. "And I definitely don't work for people who think money can fix emotional pain." His cheeks turned red. "You're walking away from a solution to your financial problems out of pride?" "No," she corrected gently, "out of dignity. And because your son deserves more than someone pretending to care." She headed for the door, then stopped. "Julian doesn't need more specialists. He needs space to live his own story." "You don't know my son," he snapped. "No," she agreed, "but I know how society cages people like him. Not with metal or walls, but with pity, rules, and control." She reached into her bag and placed a card on his desk. "Bright Steps. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. First class is free. If you want to bring him, you're welcome." As she exited, Winters was waiting, clearly eavesdropping. "You just turned down Henry Bradford," she whispered. "Are you insane?" Mia smiled. "Maybe, but I'd rather be insane than be owned." The next Wednesday, Mia stood behind the reception desk of the community center when her sister Lena rushed in, adjusting her hijab. "There's a Bentley outside," she whispered. "You won't believe who's in it." Through the window, Mia spotted the luxury car. Julian sat in the back seat, eyes searching. Henry sat behind the wheel, unmoving, as if torn between pride and fear. "He's not coming in," Lena said. "Men like him never do." But Mia recalled the way Julian had looked at her that night. "Don't underestimate the power of a determined child." Just then the door opened. Julian climbed out slowly, adjusting his braces. And then, against all odds, Henry followed. He wore casual clothes, still expensive, but clearly chosen to seem less imposing. It didn't quite work. "I told you he'd come," Mia whispered. Lena stared. "What did you say to him?" Mia didn't answer, but there was something in her eyes, a quiet spark. Back in her tiny Brookhaven apartment, hidden beneath her bed, lay a notebook filled with stories, notes on kids like Julian, and men like Henry Bradford. Years of reflection. Years. What Henry Bradford never saw coming, what no one from his world of skyscrapers and platinum cards could imagine, was that Mia Carter wasn't just a waitress who said yes to a dance. She was a woman with purpose, and his fortress of wealth and emotional distance was about to be shaken by a truth no dollar could deflect. Some of life's most powerful lessons can't be bought. They must be felt. They must be lived. Bright Steps was based in a repurposed warehouse. The walls were painted with bright murals and handmade signs. Your rhythm, your rules. Every step tells a story. When Henry and Julian walked in, kids with walkers, braces, and wheelchairs moved freely to a gentle beat. Some danced in circles, others just swayed. But all were in motion. "Mr. Bradford," Mia greeted, wearing a simple shirt with the program's logo. "Welcome." Julian stood still, amazed. A girl spun gracefully in her wheelchair. A boy with a prosthetic leg tapped out his own unique rhythm. "It feels disorganized," Henry muttered, visibly uneasy. "There's structure," Mia replied, with a smile. "Just not the kind you're used to." She turned to Julian. "Would you like to join?" He nodded, then glanced at his father, unsure. "Go on," Henry said. "I'll be right here." As Mia guided Julian into the group, Lena approached with a warm smile and offered Henry a chair. "The first day is always the hardest," she said, "for the parents, never the kids." "This isn't therapy," Henry argued. "I've hired the top rehab experts." "And how's that working out for Julian?" Lena asked softly. Just then the studio door opened. An older woman entered, elegant braids tied back, leaning on a carved cane. Her presence alone quieted the room. "Dr. Elaine Miles," Lena whispered, "retired neuroscientist, specialized in brain plasticity." The woman greeted a few children, then turned to Henry. "Mr. Bradford, you've declined my research proposals 3 times in 2 years, Dr. Miles." He blinked. "I didn't expect you here." "I oversee this program," she explained. "We're studying how child-led movement impacts brain development in kids with motor disabilities." Henry frowned. "I thought this was just a dance group." Mia returned, letting Julian move freely with another child. "Bright Steps is a pilot project in motor autonomy," she explained. "We combine adaptive movement with neuroscience-based learning." Then why work tables at night, he asked. Because no one funds us yet, including you, she replied, eyes steady. Realization hit him. You were listed as assistant researcher on those proposals. Co-author, Dr. Miles corrected firmly. Mia had to leave grad school to care for her sister, but her theories are at the forefront of our field. You knew who I was that night at the restaurant, Henry said, his voice low. From the moment you walked in, Mia confirmed. And when Julian stood up to dance, I saw a chance to demonstrate, not explain. So, was it all staged? Not at all, she replied. Julian made a choice. I simply followed it. Just then, a group of reporters entered the studio. Henry stiffened. What is this? Part 2, Mia said softly. Lena handed him a newspaper. Front page headline, Breakthrough Movement. Program shows hope for disabled children. We published our preliminary results this morning, explained Dr. Miles, and we invited the press to witness what we do. You use my son for publicity, Henry snapped. His tone was ice. Mia led him to a quieter room where dozens of photos hung on the wall, each child paired with handwritten notes, progress charts, and milestones. At the far end, an empty frame. What's that supposed to be? He asked. Our dream, she answered. A full rehabilitation facility, 500 kids a year instead of just 50. You planned all of this, Henry muttered. The dance, the invitation, this moment. I saw a door where you slammed one, Mia said. 4 months ago, you cancelled our meeting without reading a single page. I swore I'd find another way. Before he could respond, Lena rushed in. Mia, it's Julian. They ran back to the main room. Julian stood at the center, surrounded by the other kids. The music had stopped. All eyes were on him. He had removed one of his braces. He was trying to stand using only the other. Julian, Henry stepped forward, but Mia held him back. Wait, she whispered. Let him try. The boy inhaled deeply, focused, and then slowly. He took a single step, unsteady, imperfect. But his... The children burst into cheers. Cameras flashed. Henry stood frozen, emotion flooding a face usually carved from stone. That's why we created Bright Steps, Mia said. It's not about perfect movement. It's about a first step that's yours alone. Henry didn't see a diagnosis or a challenge. He saw his son, whole, capable, leading. This could have been done without the theatrics, he murmured. It could have, Mia replied, if you'd picked up the phone or read a single proposal. The room's mood shifted. Some reporters turned their cameras on Henry. Whispers grew louder. Julian, unaware of any of it, continued practicing. His expression focused, peaceful. Henry Bradford, the man used to bending the world to his will, now stood before a decision no fortune could influence, withdraw in pride, and confirm every cold headline ever written about him. Or take the step his son had just shown him how to take. He looked at Julian, then at the journalists. Humility was foreign to him, but as he watched his son's face light up, something inside him finally gave way. The orchestra of control and privilege Henry Bradford once conducted now played a different melody, and he had to choose, keep leading or finally learn to follow. As the cameras flashed, Henry turned toward the press. Julian had just taken a step on his own, not guided, not corrected, just free, and Mia Carter had orchestrated a moment he couldn't have imagined. Mr. Bradford, a journalist asked, "Can you comment on your visit to Bright Steps today?" Is it true your foundation rejected this program 3 times? Henry glanced at his son, still practicing without concern for the tension in the room. Then, to everyone's shock, especially Mia's, he smiled. "You know what's hardest for people like me," he said, loud enough for all to hear. "Admitting when we're wrong." The room went still. The Bradford Foundation is proud to announce 5 years of full funding for Bright Steps and will be building a permanent rehabilitation center based on the methodology developed by Dr. Miles and Ms. Carter. Flashes burst from every camera. Lena gasped in disbelief. "On one condition," he added, turning to Mia, "that Ms. Carter maintains complete autonomy. No corporate influence, no compromises." 3 months later, bulldozers were clearing the lot. The Bright Steps Rehabilitation Center had broken ground. It wasn't the flashiest project the foundation had funded, but it was the boldest. Every wall, every corridor, designed with input from the very kids who would use it. Mia oversaw the work closely. But never alone. Julian came often, sometimes with friends. And surprisingly, Henry Bradford showed up too. Not as a donor, but as a father. "I didn't think you'd actually attend board meetings," Mia said one day, reviewing floor plans. "I didn't think I'd be reading neuroscience at my age," he replied, rubbing his eyes. His desk was cluttered with articles marked with sticky notes. "But here we are." Mia looked at him thoughtfully. "Is this redemption for the cameras? Or do you actually care?" Julian asked to remove his second brace last week. "No," she nodded. "He told me. His therapist said that wouldn't be possible for another 2 years. You fired her," Mia reminded, "because I told you she was wrong." And she was. Henry looked at a photo on the wall. Julian standing proud with just one crutch. He's progressing faster than any projection. A pause. "Why? Did you never accept my apology?" Henry asked suddenly. Mia didn't hesitate. "Because you never gave one. You shifted funding, restructured policies, gave us resources. That's not an apology. That's compensation." Henry nodded slowly. "Fair enough." At the opening ceremony, 6 months later, the contrast with that tense night at the bistro was striking. The new adaptive center was alive. Children moved freely across the space, each using braces, walkers, or wheels in their own rhythm. In the main hall, Julian led a short choreographed routine with 3 other kids. He now wore only a lightweight brace on his left leg. His steps weren't flawless, but they were steady and full of quiet confidence. No doctor had expected. Henry watched from a distance. "He didn't interfere. He doesn't need you to hold him anymore," Mia said softly, joining him. "No," Henry agreed, "but he still needs me close." He turned toward her. "There's a difference." Then, simply, "Thank you." "For what exactly?" she asked. "For teaching me how to follow." A reporter stepped in. "Mr. Bradford, how does it feel to witness your son's progress?" Henry looked across the room. Julian was helping a younger girl find her balance. He smiled. "I'm proud, not just of what he's overcome, but of what he's built for others." "And what's the most important thing you've learned from this journey?" Henry Bradford, once defined only by his fortune and empire, faced the camera without flinching. That true leaders aren't those who insist on guiding every step, but those brave enough to follow when someone else shows them a better way. A year later, Bright Steps expanded to 3 more cities. Maya Carter was honored with the National Pediatric Innovation Award. Her methodology spread to hospitals across the country. Julian, now using just a light cane on hard days, enrolled in public school. He became a youth ambassador for the program, encouraging others to walk, move or roll at their own pace, and Henry Bradford learned the most difficult lesson of all, that real power doesn't lie in control, but in knowing when to step aside and let someone else lead. In a world where the powerful rarely change and the unheard remain invisible, the story of Henry, Mia, and Julian reminds us. True transformation happens when we cross the silent barriers between us. When a billionaire learns from a waitress, when a father follows in his son's steps. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe, because real revolutions rarely begin with fame or money. They start with a single act of dignity and someone brave enough to follow it.